we got a couple of quarterbacks as well as one dynamic offensive weapon that have all entered the transfer portal. So as of right now, the portal will open, I believe, this upcoming Monday after the conference championship games. You're seeing a lot of intents to enter. You're seeing a lot of plans to enter. The names that we're about to go through here have already entered by nature of them being a graduate transfer and by nature of some of these guys being able to have their so I'll rephrase that. If your head coach is fired, you can also enter the transfer portal. But bottom line, a couple of quarterbacks here that are going to be a hot commodity. And like I just said a second ago, fit makes all the difference in the world. Your system makes all the difference in the world for these college quarterbacks. You'll see guys be good somewhere, then be elite another place. Bo Nix being one, Jaden Daniels being one. There's a lot that has to go your way to be successful at the quarterback position. But Will Howard, man, quarterback at Kansas State, he has entered the transfer portal. He is open, it sounds like, to declaring for the NFL draft. Whenever you think about Kansas State quarterbacks, you kind of think of like what Colin Klein was there. Now he's the OC at Kansas State, but what he was when he played there. You think of design quarterback runs. You think of an offense that's not necessarily the most pro style. There is nothing gimmicky about Will Howard. His resume, I think, should hold a lot of weight and should speak for itself. I mean, I believe he started 27 of 33 games at Kansas State, played a lot of football early. He is a real deal pocket passer. Pete Nakos of On3 is reporting some potential landing spots that could be interested in a guy like Will Howard. Auburn, Kentucky, Louisville, Missouri, Washington. Got a Big 12 title to his name as well, does Will Howard, so he's a winner. Going back to those suitors, though, I would personally love to see Will Howard stay in that purple uniform and head his way on out to the West Coast, because I think Will Howard has a little bit more in the tank as a passer than what we've been able to see in that Kansas State offense. Kansas State, they've been really successful offensively, but it's been pretty much a run-heavy operation. It's been a, let's use the quarterback design run. Let's have a couple of things that are more specific to the college offense. And I'm not saying Washington is more of a pro-style offense, but you see what Michael Penix Jr. is doing at Washington. He is lighting it up. It's a wide-open offense. It's a quarterback-friendly offense, and I think it would showcase a lot of what Will Howard has from an ability standpoint. So keep an eye on Will Howard. He's going to make somebody happy, and dude's a baller. So keep an eye on Will Howard from Kansas State. He is in the portal. Will Rogers has entered the portal from Mississippi State. I mean, speaking of resumes, I don't know if there's one much better in the transfer portal than Will Rogers. Second all-time in yards in the SEC behind Aaron Murray. Fourth all-time in touchdowns in SEC history. The way this feels to me, by nature of what he's played in for the majority of his career at Mississippi State, the air raid offense, the spread you out, I think people know he can throw the football. I think the question mark would be, if I'm trying to draft a Will Rogers, would be, can he play in a pro-style offense? To me, him going to Kentucky and going and playing for a guy like Liam Cohen, Kentucky also, worth noting, they've started a transfer portal quarterback the last couple of years. Will Levis from Penn State, Devin Leary this last year from NC State. Will Rogers jumping in there, being the next guy, and being able to show scouts what he has would make a lot of sense to me. And the reason why I mentioned the pro-style system in the NFL draft, like a lot of these guys that jump in the portal, some of it's for playing time, some of it's they want to showcase abilities they haven't got to showcase yet at their previous school. I think for a lot of them, it's trying to help their NFL draft stock for one more year before they go. And if I'm drafting Will Rogers, my one question is, well, is he a system quarterback? Yes, he put up great numbers, but is he a product of the Mike Leach air raid? Or can Will Rogers really spin it when we ask him to go under center and play with a tight end consistently and get us in and out of different checks? Like, I'm curious to see that. So I don't question it personally, but if I'm an NFL scout, I think you'd like to see that. I think it could help Will Rogers overall. Now, this is one that is we saw coming, really interesting to me. Tyler Van Dyke at Miami. Tyler Van Dyke and his time in Coral Gables, dude, he started out hot. Like ACC Rookie of the Year in 2021. Coming into the season, we were talking about in 2022 if he might be a guy that, is a first-round pick after that season and what he could accomplish. And, to me, I think just a change of scenery is needed for a guy like Tyler Van Dyke. He can play some football now. We've seen him play football. We've seen him have struggles these last 2 years. And I think the struggles you can point pretty directly to the different coordinators he's had over that period of time. Like when he was playing in the up-tempo, Rhett Lashley, spread you out, throw the ball around the yard kind of offense, he was crushing it. Then he got into a position where he didn't have a lot of help on the offensive line last year, and then he didn't have necessarily a ton of game breakers at wide receiver last year, and really this year, to be honest. I think Tyler Van Dyke's kind of been hamstrung by what's been around him. And it's difficult to have to learn 3 different systems in 3 years. Like, it's like having, what you go from in year 1 to year 2 of an offense, you go from knowing what to do to then being able to instinctually execute what's asked of you. And Tyler Van Dyke has to keep going back to square one every single year. So I think being able to get out of Coral Gables, where he hasn't necessarily, I'm guessing, been the most popular by nature of the way he's performed the last couple of years, similar to Bo Nix, like just get out of that kind of bad vibe situation. Wasn't great for either party for whatever reason. Let's go somewhere else. Let's reinvent ourselves. Let's kind of take all the pressure off our shoulders, and let's go ball. We've seen him do it. I still maintain that I think Tyler Van Dyke can play quarterback at a really elite level should he be in the right position to succeed. I'm excited to watch what he does. I think when you look at potential fits for him, he's from Connecticut, and I could see him going back to the Northeast and being in the Midwest around like Big Ten country. You would imagine UConn, Jim Mora would probably want to have a guy like Tyler Van Dyke as his quarterback. We'll see what happens with him. But I think Tyler Van Dyke can play the quarterback position at a high level given the right position. Now, let's move on to a non-quarterback here, and that's a wide receiver, Chris Tyree, grad transferring from Notre Dame. Chris Tyree is fascinating because he came to Notre Dame as a pretty highly recruited running back and was successful as a running back. They asked him to move to wide receiver this past offseason, or he made the pivot rather to wide receiver this past offseason. All he did was lead the team in yards receiving. First time playing the position. And so now him jumping into the transfer portal, I think someone's going to get a weapon. It's funny talking about where does someone like Chris Tyree fit and who could be the right school for him. Everybody needs a Chris Tyree. Skill players like Chris Tyree that can play running back for you, play wide receiver for you, return punts for you. He had an 80-plus yard touchdown return on a punt this year. It's like butter. You always want more of it. There's no such thing as too much butter on your dish. There's no such thing as too much skill on your roster with someone like a Swiss Army knife that is Chris Tyree. Now, he's from the DMV area. If he were trying to help his NFL draft stock and play wide receiver, Maryland is a pretty wide open offense. You would imagine that could be a fit for him, get back closer to home. So Maryland is sort of just one off the top of my head that would make sense. But Chris Tyree, again, he is going to be someone that is very highly sought after when it comes to the transfer portal. Now, there's one more, not so much individual, but topic I want to address when it comes to the portal. And you're seeing a lot of these guys from the Ivy League jump into the portal and just blow up with offers. And the reason why you're seeing these guys jump out of their current situation is because in the Ivy League, you cannot play as a grad student. The first thought when you see these guys transfer is, why is he transferring from Yale? Why is he transferring from Penn? Well, they can't play there another year unless they want to unenroll, take a semester off, figure out something to do for 6 months while all their other classmates graduate, then come back and play another year. Also worth noting, the Ivy League doesn't do scholarships. So you're having to fund your own 6 months. You're having to come back and not be on scholarship and then play another season of FCS football. I would much rather, and I did this actually. I actually graduated on time and then said, I want to go play somewhere else. Let's go figure it out and let's go walk on somewhere. These guys are getting scholarship offers. Joey Slackman had 17 offers in one day. He is a defensive lineman at Penn, or was at Penn. Thor Griffith was on Bruce Feldman's freak list. He's a defensive tackle from Harvard. The thing with these guys that makes them such a hot commodity, especially on the line of scrimmage, is one, they are a proven commodity. You have 40 games of tape on them, given the fact that you have a 10-game season for 4 years. So we're assuming around 40 games of tape. Also, there's no baggage. The question you would ask, I think more often than not, if you're on staff and you're trying to evaluate portal personnel, is, well, why are they transferring? What's the reason? Did they have a falling out with the coach? Was there something why they weren't a fit? Were they a locker room problem? I'm not saying that's always the case, but I think it's a question you have to ask. The answer for these guys in the Ivy League is pretty straightforward. Hey, they couldn't play another year where they wanted to without inconveniencing themselves. They're good enough to play somewhere else. Let's go. Hunter Norzad from Cornell is a great example. Had the COVID year behind him, so he had 2 years of eligibility. I guess it was on 2 or 3, multiple years of eligibility. Playing on the line of scrimmage, was an All-American at Cornell. Penn State says, hey, come play for us, and he was a plug-and-play guy pretty quickly for them and started on the offensive line for them this past season. You know what you're getting. They've been developed. You don't have to guess with what they're going to be for you. And, yeah, I mean, it's nothing with their situation. It's nothing with, were they a problem? It's like, no, they just can't play as grad students. So just something to make sure we're all on the same page. When that portal opens up on Monday, we will have a full, I guess, transfer portal show for you right here on this channel. Myself, Andy Staples, chopping it up, talking about the guys that are already in, talking about the guys that might jump in, talking about, you know, who needs what. It'll be a full-on transfer portal, college football's version of Black Friday, more or less, breakdown for you. So make sure you're dialed in here. It'll be a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to doing that for you guys here. Again, that's Monday morning. Make sure you're dialed in. Hey y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.